Hi, this is Misha, and we brought you a good number of different AKs and SKSs over the years, and got another one here. It's nothing too special or unique. This is one of the Chinese Type 56 SKSs in the fiberglass, often called Bakelite stock or jungle stock. Just thought we'd show it. Had one come in. Haven't put one on the table before. And for comparison, I brought out my usual Type 56 that's been in multiple videos because I'm getting a lot of mileage out of this critter. This is a very standard later production with the wood stock. This one has a lot of the late production features too. I believe this one was made around 1967, maybe 1966. It's a 12 million serial. This one here is in the 8 millions. It's a low 8 million serial gun. We'll look at the guns first. The original Chinese Type 56 SKSs were pretty much exact copies of the Soviet. That's why we have this blade bayonet, which was standard with the Chinese really until around 1964, maybe even into 65. They used the standard blade. I've read a few reasons why they went to the famous pig stickers. Some people say it was cheaper and faster to produce. Could be. Some said it gave a longer length to pull. Could be. Earlier ones like this used the more of a Soviet style gas block. They used a one-piece gas tube. They used a long lug barrel screwed into the receiver. The rear sight has the groove, the little lightning cut here. The bayonet has the lightning cut here, bayonet housing or lug I should say. The trigger guard is made of machined steel, Soviet style. The safety has ribbing here, kind of for the finger, front and back. Set on the other side. Little things like that. The bolt carrier still has a lightning cut here. Otherwise a pretty standard SKS. Just to compare with this later version, we see there's no lightning cut. The gas block is different. A little more simplified, easier to machine. I believe this has the two-piece gas tube. If not, I can tell you they went to a two-piece style very soon. We've omitted the groove on top of the rear sight, a little less machining there. We've omitted the lightning cut here on the bolt carrier. Again, a little less machining. We start to see the short lug for the barrel here. We go to a stamped trigger guard versus the original machined. The patterning on the safety goes away. And in general, more and more stamped parts start to appear in the Chinese SKS beginning in the mid-60s and running through the 70s. They would even go to stamped receivers which were riveted together with a barrel pressed and pinned in a la AK. Now we have a video looking at the history of the Chinese Type 56 SKS and Type 56 AK, so really no reason to go into that here. I just had a relatively early and a relatively late to show you, so I thought I would. Obviously the biggest difference is the switch in bayonets. Mostly on the early days at least, the Chinese SKS was produced at so-called Factory 26, which would keep up production until around 1971. Then they would not make it anymore throughout the 70s, and then production goes to other places, so on and so forth. It's an interesting but kind of convoluted story. It doesn't really matter. They made millions of these, maybe as many as 10 million, maybe more, maybe a little less. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. You know, just one of those things. Let's talk about this stock though, because this is pretty unique. For one thing, Americans love Bakelite, but it's not Bakelite, but we'll call it Bakelite because that's what people like. Some are more brown and some are more red. Now, a lot of people like to say these stocks aren't original. They are original in the sense that the Chinese military, or at least for export, did fit them to guns. They obviously were not going to make huge numbers of stocks just for the American market. There are different styles of these, and some of them appear more commercial than others. A lot of times you could buy the stocks separate and put them on your gun if you wanted in the US, and a lot of people did. This one, from what I know, because I bought it from the original owner who bought it back in the 90s, said it came with the stock on it from the importer, so I have no reason to disbelieve him. It is a factory 26 marked gun. It has a serial of just over 8 million, and it still has the blade bayonet. And honestly, most of the ones that I believe, at least appear to me to be correct, seem like they have the blade bayonet. I've seen plenty of these Bakelite stocks modified for the spike bayonet, but it does appear to be a modification. This is a pretty robust stock. It's not really any lighter, may even be a little heavier than the standard wood, at least some of the woods. But it's definitely more durable, less prone to moisture. And that's where the whole jungle stock idea came from. This is the commonly held belief that these were issued for soldiers in jungles, and it's often said that they appeared in Vietnam in the 60s and 70s because they were better suited. Whether this is true or not, it really makes perfect sense based on how wood reacts in humid environments. Interestingly, these still retain a cleaning kit trap in the butt, which is neat. They still have the palm, or excuse me, the finger grooves in the stock. We have a smooth upper handguard. Somehow we'll have what people call the French tickler upper handguard. These were later guns. And everything else is pretty well standard. Now, interestingly, this sling originally came on the other gun here, but I moved it to this gun because it fits better. This is what you could call a jungle sling. Instead of having the leather tab, we have these curlicue, pigtail looking little wire retainers, front and back, made of metal, which are obviously far less prone to rusting and deteriorating either than real leather or pleather, fake leather. They're metal. They might rust, but they're not going to deteriorate like leather would here. So that would make perfect sense to put this on a synthetic stock gun, so that's why I did. Also, these are pretty fun to put on. You kind of slip it over and then spin a lot and it snaps on. Pretty neat design, honestly. And as you see, the sling itself is a little different. The buckle's way up here. We have a little keeper here. This is adjustable. It's just a different style of sling. Pretty interesting. This is not leather. This is synthetic. Almost plastic, it feels like. So kind of an all-weather stock and an all-weather sling. I don't know why a lot of these stocks appear on the early guns. I suspect maybe there was a refurbishment program. They took older guns that had beat-up stocks and they put them in their brand new Bakelite fiberglass stocks. Could be. Could have been for export. Could have gone to Vietnam. Who knows? It is worth just reminding the Type 56-2, their AK, appeared with Bakelite beginning in the late 70s. They had been working on this fiberglass material for a long time. They would make both fixed and folding AK stocks, handguards, pistol grips. And actually the colors on those would range from red to black to kind of black with green undertones. A little unusual. But just thought we'd share this. The jungle stocked early blade bayonet, Chinese Type 56 SKS. Otherwise, very standard gun. Oh, one thing I didn't mention, the wrist on these is very slim. which I think is kind of feels good. It doesn't feel chintzy, but it is very slim here. And as you see, the sling swivel is interesting. Still on the bottom, but it has one big screw running from side to side and this big bracket, U-shape going around. And as you see, there's very noticeable mold line running all around the stock. Some of them have more of a noticeable line than others. I think this one's neat for having it more apparent. Typical detachable mag. Well, that's about it. Appreciate you tuning in for a minute with us. If you liked the video, please click like as always. If you'd like to share or talk about your own SKSs in the comments, we'd love that too. And if you'd like to help support us, please check out our Patreon. This is Misha, and we'll catch you next time.